Right, I've hit the button and look who's back. It's Julie Murdoch. Oh, thank God for that. She's back. Thank
Muscling
God
her way
Jules.
back in.
Thank God you're back.
Didn't muscle my way anywhere.
Yeah,
You've not been on the pod for ages.
I know you've been working.
We've been
on holidays.
I know, and you've been busy.
These
talking
holidays
to
are not
clients.
going to take themselves.
No, I'm
So
not.
one holiday for the October week.
How many holidays have you had, Stuart?
You know this is getting cut. But I've not had any holidays. That's my choice. So it's not. It's that.
This is such
Stuart,
a great place to work, isn't it?
Every day is a holiday for Stuart. Cause
I know. I mean, and as soon as I get paid, I'll have hit the jackpot. It'll be fantastic.
Do you
it's
get
such
paid?
a great place.
Well,
Do you
not
get
yet.
paid?
No, I just do it because I'm hoping that one day,
Might
just
get
keep going.
recognised.
One day I'll get paid. But at the moment, I'm not going to get paid if I take holidays, am I? I mean,
No, quite right.
It's not going to happen.
Look
No
at your
chance.
blue. Look at your wee purple background
I
today.
know.
Like it.
That's the energy. I'm bringing the purple energy.
Mm.
Before we kick off, Jules, and I know you'll have missed this, but Chris has a joke. He's not done a lot of jokes because he's been saving them all for you. Chris,
Wow.
crack on.
Okay. Of late, I've been worrying an awful lot about German sausages. I suppose it's just because I fear the worst.
Where do you get these from?
And more importantly, where can you put them back? Right,
Put
let's
them back.
crack on.
That's good.
Cue the music.
Welcome to the Good Brand Podcast. Good is a brand consultancy based in the United Kingdom, and we do brand for businesses all over the world. Serious stuff. My name is Stuart Steele. Well, it's serious stuff. My name is Stuart Steele. I work at Good. I'm the strategy director. I
Don't get
joined
paid, though.
today. I don't get paid, and I don't get holidays. But one day,
A boy can dream.
Boy
A
can dream. Boy does dream. And I'm joined today by Ms. Julie Murdoch, who is the managing director of Good.
I am.
You are. Hello.
And I get paid.
and
I
you
get
do
paid.
get- of course you get paid.
And I get holidays.
Of course you do. And Mr. Chris London, founding partner of Good, whose remuneration is Musk-esque in its complexity.
Well, I was
And,
going to say, I think we should go for the million or the trillion. Hello.
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 It's
So-
nice to be back.
It's nice to be back
Isn't
as a
it
team.
just?
We've had some good conversations with other people, but it's like a warm blanket when I'm joined by my
A wee
homies.
warm hug. A wee
Oh,
warm
like
hug.
it.
Your brand homies.
My brand homies on the main streets of Brand Town.
Down the brand mines. We've
Down
been
the brand-
toiling.
This is going to be shambolic today. I can tell already. There's
It's
too
gonna be a
much
good
like
one.
crazy
Well,
energy going
But
on.
we're only starting high because we're going to argue because I can.
I know. Well, why not? Why
We're
break the habit of a lifetime? And we've been arguing all week, so we might as well carry it into the pod.
How dare you? Argument. We have been enhancing the conversation.
No, we've
And
been
now
arguing.
for more
Shut up.
conversation answer. See, to prove the point. So hold on tight, kids. So today we're going to talk about an article that Chris wrote on LinkedIn, and it just, I mean, to say it ripped up. We had a wee competition to see how many people. Chris said, "How many impressions do you think?" And I said 100, and I said more than 100, more than
I thought
100.
it just keeps. It
That's
just keeps.
1,200 times more than 100.
I
Yeah.
write a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, as we all do, and it disappears into the oblivion, and no one ever, nothing happens. So, and that's what you expect.
Yeah.
But you do it
Yeah.
because you do it.
But so let's not keep the people in
Topical,
suspense.
innit?
What's
Topical.
the what?
Well, it was a thing. It was something or nothing. It was a piece. It was my take on the Lululemon letter ad that was put in the press by the founder, Chip Wilson, about criticising the current board and saying that they'd lost their way and that it's lost the brand. I think this is maybe the bit that why it flew is because and it was in the headline, the company's lost 50% of its market capitalization earned from brand power, and he blames the company losing its way because over lots of things. He has a bit of a rant in it, but I think his core criticism is that, because there are other criticisms about products and the way it operates and the leadership, but underneath it all, he thinks the company's lost sight of what it was for and who it was for. And I know that it's maybe I packaged it up. It's probably, it's probably more, and it is much more complex than that, but still it's a lot of brand value. And it's quite unusual, I think, to hear founders like that ascribe, and it's reassuring. And I think I'm glad to hear it. People saying, look, the brand is extremely valuable. And we've lost a lot of value from mismanagement from our brand. So, and I just drew the point to say, like, we see this a lot when clarity, becomes, things get confused, the thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and and you get lots and lots of people with lots and lots of markets with lots and lots of opinions. And the brand stops being clear because it tries to service too many kind of, I suppose, masters internally. And you can't be for it. I say in the thing, you can't be for everyone and expect to stay extremely powerful. And they've struggled. So I think that it's a rare, it's a reminder from someone who's built billions in value that brand isn't a soft, and I like this line, brand isn't soft, it's the hardest, most valuable thing that a business owns. So that was it. And I attached the article that I had, and lots of people kind of commented, and some people disagreed, some people challenged, some, how people comment. I mean, fine, I'm not going to, it's just my take on it. It's just a something and nothing, and but that was it. But what was interesting, and I'll talk in a minute and let you guys talk, is that, we were talking about it internally, and Stuart, you have some challenges too, and Jules, you had some thoughts as well. I think it was you that introduced me to that brand, Jules. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Thoughts?
I think my view on this, well, we could all talk about the same kind of things, but it's from a customer point of view. And it's funny, I was saying just before the podcast when we were talking, you kind of review that article and think about this conversation from someone who buys and has I've bought Lululemon for a long time and have been a customer for a long time, thinking about it from using the product and continuing to use the product point of view versus with a brand hat on in a brand consultancy type. And it is because it's quite different. I'm like, why am I, anyway, I was introduced to the brand through one of their community-based initiatives because they had, and I don't know if they still do, that's the thing, through they had a big brand ambassador program that drove their kind of community sort of roots. And I presume that's where the kind of women who inspires culture, blah, blah, because it was about those ambassadors were real everyday athletes that inspire people day to day. I don't know what the kind of core brand take on it was.
It was quite nice.
And so in my case, it was in my case, it was, it was the owner of our CrossFit gym. Do you know what I mean? And she was a brand ambassador for Lululemon in Glasgow. She's now a legacy ambassador, has been for years. And that's basically why we started. Also, because you got a discount.
Well, there's that. There's that.
It does show the power of that, because our entire gym pretty much went from wearing Nike when Stella had trained at Nike to Lululemon. Now and I think 10, 15 years on, the product is just as good. And I think that's where I have a challenge over some of those, because the experience and the quality is worth the price point, in my view. There are cheaper alternatives, even with mainstream high street brands that a lot of people buy. And I think from a customer perspective, the product hasn't significantly changed. They're still essentially an apparel and accessories brand who make really good gym stuff. So the rest of it kind of becomes white noise.
Have you stopped using it? No.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't until
so it's
until
interesting that you're
shit.
talking about the period when the brand was really well, knew what it was, it knew where it was coming from, and you guys bought into that, and it's it was really powerful for you. But the brand has also grown massively. It has expanded enormously, and I think that's to your point, Stuart, isn't it? Come on then. Let's hear.
Do you mean
it.
grown in terms of what? In terms of the range, or in terms of you're talking
everything,
like valuation?
Everything.
Yeah.
Every line, every increment has gone through the roof.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about, on one hand, I kind of look at Chip and go, aye, all right, son, you left in 2014, you were in a bit of a huff before you left, you're in a huff after it, but the business has grown, and that's why it was sold. So, because obviously somebody saw the opportunity for the growth to go crazy, and they've done it. So I kind of look at it and go, you're going on to brand because what else really do you have to kind of complain about? Because it's not the same. And it raises a more interesting question to me, is going, can businesses scale? Can brand scale? Because you see it with Starbucks, the reason that as soon as they had their IPO, the reason that Starbucks, when you looked at the menu and the combinations of drinks you could have, there was something like 3,600 combinations of drinks, and that was because they had to keep adding in more money and making sure there was more. So that was adding in more things. So to the point with forgetting about the customer. So the kind of interesting thing is, if you want growth, where does the customer fit into that? Do you kind of go, well, you know what, we're just going to add more and more and more because somebody will buy, and at some point, is it possible to keep scale and growth and expectations of the stock market, but say, actually, no, we're happy here? And does that work?
Or is it tighter? Because I think, again, looking at it because brand can clearly scale if you look at some other, the kind of the Patagonia types, or look at Apple, do you know what I mean? It wasn't all, but then, not to quote Apple, but the roots of Lululemon was in that kind of community-driven initiatives. And is that where the challenge is coming from? You go from being a community-driven, brand ambassadorial type brand, program and brand, into a marketing-driven organization that feels very different from is that where some of the challenge lives?
Yeah, it's like Brewdog, isn't it? You start off by nibbling away and winning people away from the establishment, and then you suddenly become the establishment, and that's what happened. It is a cautionary tale, but I suppose if you give up control and sell part, I don't know the financial underpinnings of Lululemon. I presume there's private equity in there, and they grew and grew and grew, and that's what happened. And yeah, your question is where are we going? Because, Nike sits at the top of that tree, doesn't it? It is a business at scale, but it's scaled over decades, with a very clear understanding of who it was and what it was.
I mean, you would look at it recently and kind of go, they've lost.
Up until, I know, but there's now signs they're on their way back, right? So Nike's never going to, but the point is, it took a long time, and it wasn't scaled the same way. So there is more of a kind of institutional memory or understanding around what that business is all about. I think Jules's point is a good one, in that at the beginning there was this kind of shared sense of purpose around it. Maybe that's gone, and it's just all about scale, and the share price becomes more important than potentially the product or the next product or the next innovation, because that's part of his critique.
Well, but then that's where I have a challenge on, because I don't think there has been, the core product has not significantly changed.
Are you using that as a criticism? They've not innovated.
No, I think that's a strength. I think that they've introduced, they introduce new lines, they introduce new variations on the theme. I'm talking about, and they have, of course, there's leisure wear and stuff like that, but I don't think it's not I think from a product sense and from a product perspective, from a customer point of view, I don't see that kind of loss of focus. I think if you walk into a store today versus walking into a store 10 years ago, the experience isn't drastically different in terms of what you're shopping for. If you're going in for a pair of Wonder Train leggings, you're going to get pretty much what you would have bought. You know what I mean? The quality hasn't.
That may
suffered.
have been part.
Maybe
that may have been part of the criticism, because it's about the NPD and all that stuff, and the business has become all about the business.
Yeah, because it was
rather than
more
about the innovation.
Yeah.
And so then it's losing share to there'll be new people chasing it. That's the tail.
It's not even new. It's dupes. It's people. That's the big thing. I mean, Lululemon tried to get a Lululemon dupes trademark, because it's the whole thing about. It's what we talked about in the last podcast. The Chinese manufacturing now is so good that they can take what Lululemon done, they can spin it out. They'll put a little bit of a shiny brand on it. They'll call it a dupe. It's interesting. It's not a fake. It's an interesting choice of language. These aren't fakes, or these are dupes, which is kind of, for whatever reason, it's somewhat more acceptable that so you'll get a Lululemon dupe, and it will be the same as everything else. So you're kind of up against that competition, which isn't a traditional brand.
I think that's all real incredible. But I do think at the heart of the thing that struck me was the point, and we see it in that, what started off as an instinctive kind of passion, the bigger the business gets, the more complicated, and the more people that are involved, and the more kind of lost the original vision becomes, until the process itself kind of, is is driving the whole business, and and it becomes almost impossible to innovate or do anything new or trendy or fashionable because there's so much friction.
To hit
the
bell, to hit the Apple bell, which I know Julie's already hit, but I'll hit the Apple bell now because that's there. I mean, Steve Jobs realised that. Have you heard of Steve Jobs?
I have heard of him.
Yeah, he was the founder of
keys
Apple.
to the internet.
He made telephones.
Computers
before telephones.
He did that. Uh-huh. So, but even what he saw at Apple was the fact that the culture that they created was exceptionally precious. So there was the Apple University that everybody has to go through to understand fully the heart of the brand, not how you make things or how to fill out a form to do your expenses, but there's the Apple University. And so the brand is a boot camp, and rather than it being a loose kind of, we do this and we do that, and it's kind of nice and it's kind of fluffy, it was instilled. There's a program to actually instill the ethics, the ethos of the brand in there. And I think sometimes big brands at that level, Starbucks being one, a notable example, is that it's assumed that you know what it is. And as soon as you start putting the investor at the heart of the business rather than the customer, that's when if there's a commonality, that's when the wheels seem to come off a little bit.
Yeah, it's this talk about soul, isn't it? The soul of the business, and it's all about the share price and the investor. And it does feel that's when it starts to exit. But I do think that, and that's a good point. But I do think that that's something that Nike has managed to protect and control quite well because of its very, that central kind of just do it thing, and anyone with a body is an athlete and all that stuff. That's always managed to be quite central to, and certainly in my belief, to them and what they do. But culture, it's a great point. The culture of the business and brand has a job, as we often talk about, don't we? The brand has a job of holding all that together. And if you can't hold that line, then what have you got?
But that is something that, and again, I don't know how much of that has changed genuinely, because I know that, similar to what you were talking about with Apple, Stuart, the initiatives and the programs that were run as part of either an onboarding, but not just an onboarding exercise for Lululemon employees. And I'm not talking management and leadership. I mean, people working on across the business. It was always, on the shop floor, people who are engaging with customers day to day. And there was, there were funded initiatives for stuff that were completely out with the world of, there was lots of, I think every member of staff gets a monthly contribution for something that's health and wellness. So it could pay for your gym membership, or it could be to go for a yoga retreat or whatever, and they had, so it was obviously there was a financial aspect of it, but the package that was built around a kind of the remuneration of being an employee was very much tied to kind of the core of what they are as a brand and a business. And I guess that whole thing about, the women who inspires culture and all that, not falls. It would be interesting to hear from an internal point of view. Has there been and I don't know the answer to that. Has there been a sense of a kind of cultural shift where there's less focus and less on that side of things? And how does that bleed out? Yeah. Does it become just a little bit too?
It's more about money and finance than it is about marketing and brand building, possibly.
And that's the kind of, I mean, again, for the third time, I think I'll probably turn into an Apple now. I mean, it's Tim Cook who kind of goes, when the stock price falls, they don't ask him now what happens, because he goes, listen, if you don't want to, the public face, we don't look at that because we're thinking long term. We're not, and that, again, that kind of, if a business moves from private to public, that has to change the way you're looking, because you're always looking, and we've seen that certain clients suddenly stop spending a few weeks before a quarter is at the end because they want to keep cash because it's good for the thing. So we see that in the change. So it's an interesting, how do you shift? How do you keep the heart of the business, customers at the heart of the business?
Yeah, and it also asks the question of what were they trying to do? I was like, it's like, let's get bigger. What? How big? You mentioned it.
Huge.
What are we trying? But that's the point. No, that's the point, though. How big? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to beat Nike at its own game, or what? Because that's not where they necessarily came from. So that in itself, growth in itself, and the pursuit of growth in itself, is not necessarily aligned with the brand, right? I mean, it's like what, and that's why I suppose board and money men take over then, and it becomes an exercise of, your analogy about getting the woolly mammoth. It's trying to, it's trying to get out the door.
But you could also say that part of the thing is to get the products to as many people as possible, and that's where growth comes from, because you're doing that. And China was a big thing for them. I don't know where they are now, but it becomes the focus, and it is about as many as possible. And how many businesses have done that? I mean, from Greggs to, it's a Greggs in every corner, but it's the same kind of thing. We'll get a Greggs in every corner. It's more surprising when a Greggs, which is a baker's in the UK, it's more surprising when a Greggs closes down rather than when it opens, because you kind of go, how did it fail there?
Yeah,
So
but I do wonder that, what is the strategy what is the end game?
More. It's capitalism.
But that... I maybe I'm naive. I just want it to be a bit more than that. There has to be, or something a little bit deeper than that. Why?
Because you've got investors who are investing in you, and their job is looking for more.
Well, no,
the challenge.
that rationally, that is the point. You've got investors that want their money back, and you have to. And I mean, look at where we are with AI. Look at the amount of money that's been invested in those businesses, and what is now expected of them in terms of delivering value back. The stock market's going to pop. I mean, that's what. So the question then, this becomes less of a brand podcast and more of an existential question of what.
Well, how much more is enough?
Yeah. When is enough?
I'm not telling you where I've buried my gold.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Like what role brand plays in that.
It would be kind of thing you go enough, and the kind of thing is you would like to think what we would say is that brands should dictate where.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if you've got those foundations, then that's what directs and dictates what's enough. It's guide it, is it? And if it is about bringing that notion of, well, no, I mean, but if is it living in communities to inspire women who want to do blah, 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 or is it taking that message to as many people as possible? And if you take it out of that community thing into something that's global and mainstream, then what does that look like?
What does it become?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily unachievable, but it needs, if it's,
but it changes,
if it's not clearly, if that decision-making process isn't linked to those brand foundations, then of course it's going to go off kilter because you've got nothing to look.
And even because the Glasgow Lululemon store was in Royal Exchange Square, which is quite nice. It's niche and everything. You kind of felt like it was when I went. The only thing I bought from Lululemon was a wee beanie hat, because I don't know why, but I did. Beanie daft me. So we went and bought that in there, and it's a nice store and everything else. Everybody was very friendly. Whereas then you suddenly saw them in malls, and it felt a bit faceless. And again, Apple, ding, ding, ding. But Apple at least are trying to put their own personality and spending a lot of money on creating that temple to the brand and making it feel, Whereas some of the Lululemons I've been in just kind of feel it's been a standard fit out that's not had any thought to it. Is kind of going, look, here's that, there, and there. And it works, but it's not nice.
Well, but interestingly, and again, I don't know how much of a shift, because they obviously have a lot of, there's men's, when you look at like, have we lost our focus? It's very female focused, but there's a massive menswear, collection that they have. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know how much of the revenue comes from the, male versus female ranges.
Must be
predominantly
about
female, surely.
80-20 women. Yeah.
But the point when we went in, because obviously one of my hobbies is visiting Lululemon stores in a variety of cities. But the one in New York, there's a massive one in New York that literally has has a big, massive room downstairs for like the other halves to go and just sit and basically a husband's room where you can go and sit and jump on the Wi-Fi. Ian was delighted. He was like, I'm happy here. It's fine. Take as long as you like. But things like, obviously, you're like, they know what they're doing. You're like, fine, make them happy. I'll go and take as long as you like, spend as long as you like, and spend as much as you like. Exactly. And I did.
Well.
But yeah, so but I think
I don't know. I mean, we're just talking about it. It seemed to hit people were interested in it. I don't know.
I think everyone has a view on it, don't they? Because it's it's a consumer.
They know the brand, yeah. They know the
consumer brand.
I think what was interesting in the last couple of podcasts we had with Robert and with Catherine is that at the top level that they're both operating at, admittedly in B2B businesses, which are very functional and they're different kind of things. Anytime they're talking about a brand exercise, they want customers in. And it was interesting, even at that top level, that's what they're wanting. And I dare say that, nobody suggested for a second that Lululemon stopped talking to customers over the last 14 years. But
they might have,
they did,
because they did do, like, their product, they did. And again, it was at community level because they were run by, I don't know if they were flagship. Oh, yeah, well, they did one in Glasgow. I don't know if they I don't know how they actually but they did design workshops with customers. So basically, here's a bunch of products, trial it, coming back and tell us what you like about it and don't like about it. And also existing stuff that you have. It was, so yeah, has some of that been lost? That very kind of real, down to, nitty gritty, VOC
personality,
type stuff.
Interesting.
Well, I've no doubt, Chris, that they're sitting at the next board meeting at Lululemon. I go, do you see this on the LinkedIn? Lumsden's gone mental. He's up to 13,000 impressions.
Wow.
And I'm sure they'll come on the podcast to explain themselves.
I think so.
Yeah, well, we'll give them the right to...
Maybe give you some free Lululemon pants.
Yeah. I've got some stuff. It is good quality stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
I lost my beanie in a drunken night out. I think Julie, I think I lost it twice. I think the first time Julie dragged me back to the hotel and went, there's your bloody hat there. I went, all right, okay. And then the second time I lost it because Julie wasn't there.
Right,
so
too drunk.
So a Lululemon beanie should come with a free Julie.
Exactly. There you go. Added value. So there we go. I don't think there's anything more we can conclude from that other than it was an interesting brand story in the press.
Yeah. All right.
I'd just like them to keep making good leggings because that makes me happy.
So you want? Yeah,
good.
That's the game. Right,
very
smashing.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Nice to speak to you. Bye-bye.
See you. Goodbye.